What's up, everyone? Welcome to Spotlight On. I'm Nick Mardi, and we have Ben Giroux in the building, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Spotlight On. I'm Nick Mardi, your host, and we definitely want another intro because it's even better. It's double the intro spasms. I love double intros because what we're telling you is double dosage of awesomeness and fun during the whole episode. So it's super dope. So you may have heard his voice on Bunsen Is a Beast, and we got Mikey Monroe of Ben Giroux. I guess I can throw out a couple names in there.
Sure.
But yeah, so Bunsen Is a Beast. Can you tell us a little bit about it first?
Yeah, so I've primarily done a lot of on-camera work for the last 10 years in my acting career, but over the last year or so, I've been working on Butch Hartman's new animated series, Bunsen Is a Beast. Butch Hartman is the creator of Fairly Odd Parents. That's been on the air for 15 years, and it's been an absolute blast. The show premiered in February. It's doing quite well, and the thing that's been so exciting about it is, I grew up in the 90s, like watching Doug and Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy, and to get to record my own series now in the same physical space as those shows, and with a lot of the people that voiced a lot of those roles in those shows, it's just been a dream come true. And I think the thing that's very unique about our show that's interesting is we record as an ensemble. So, a lot of times...
I saw a video of that on your Instagram.
Yeah, a lot of times, every week we get to do it. So a lot of times you'll record an animated show or a television thing or a movie, whatever. Yeah. And it's just you in the booth. And it's just you and an audio engineer and a director. And so what's been really just exciting about this process is working and developing rapport with our entire cast and our entire team, and you get to see them every week. Yeah. And what's great, particularly about our comedic show, is that we get to improvise with each other, and a lot of those improvisations wind up in the final product, obviously because they're animating to our voices. So, getting to record as an ensemble is a really unique opportunity, is particularly in the voiceover world, and one that it's just been a blast to be a part of.
So because it's improvised and you're saying that they animate to your voice, does that extend production, or does that actually bring it even quicker? No,
I mean it's not like we're improvising the entire episode. We've got our lines and everything. But what's great is that we're able to play off of each other. And to in any scene as an actor, if you've got the other actor there, there's just some little minutia that you find within a script that's just exciting to discover and to play.
No, I'm sure, because I know that's different, because whenever we see an animation behind the scenes, we see them voice recording alone, and we have 50 audio engineers behind the desk, and they're all just focused on the one. So how many people do we have as engineers, because we have the whole cast?
We've got our one main engineer, we've got our director. Butch directs the episodes, and we've got a team of writers that watch us, and then the cast, we have these little pods at Nickelodeon that we sit in. And I think the thing that's so fun about the show is that, particularly with the improvisation, is Jeremy Rowley plays Bunsen. He's an original Groundlings member. Sherry O'Terry plays our teacher, Miss Flap, on the show. So getting to improvise weekly with literally some of the best improvisers in the world is a masterclass in improvisation, and it's just fun. We're howling with laughter every week that we get to record the show, and it's again, it's a lot of hard work got this opportunity to happen, but now I feel like we're able to sort of flourish in that opportunity.
Well, especially because you get to have your own show at this point.
That's great.
How awesome is that?
Well, yeah, and it's a really attractive voice. Mikey Monroe! I mean, it's high pitched.
One of my questions later was going to be actually, what is one of your favorite voices that you can do?
Yeah, well, it's funny, the Mikey voice, I used to terrorize my sister growing up. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. My sister lives out in LA now, but I used to run around the house terrorizing her with that voice, and now I actually get paid to do the voice, which is
that's fun. It's almost like when moms are like, stop working out, and then it's like, Mom, I'm getting paid to work out now.
Well, it's like you look like the kind of guy that would get paid to work out. I'm a little schlubbier than you are.
No, you have something, because you looked really good in Back to the 90s, which we'll get into in a minute. You had the tips, you had the dye.
Gotta have to frost the tips, man.
It looked good. So it was not a flub at the least, I'll tell you that much. So Butch Hartman, I mean, that's a huge name to have a part of your production. Like you said, Fairly Odd Parents. Can you name a couple others that we would know?
Well, yeah, so, Butch's repertoire is obviously Tough Puppy, Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom. Bunsen Is a Beast is his fourth animated series. So yeah, again, Bunsen Is a Beast has just been a blast to work on. It's again, as a kid that grew up watching 90s Nicktoons, to get to voice my own Nicktoon now with somebody as just as talented and dedicated as Butch has really just been a fantastic experience, and we hope it keeps going.
That's awesome. Because I know once you get your own show, I mean, where do you think that you could go from there?
Yeah, well, obviously, you know, having stability as an actor, you know, knowing where your paycheck comes every week is obviously fantastic. But, you know, we did a Nick Animation podcast recently where we were talking, you know, half the time you get consistency in a job as an actor, and that's the win.
Totally.
But it's an even bigger win if you enjoy who you work with, and then an even bigger win if what you're working on you're really proud of.
Yeah.
You know, I've done a lot of stuff in my career where, you know, you sort of roll your eyes and you don't necessarily tell your friends that it's going to air on television.
Yeah.
But to do something that we're all proud of and that we all like each other and we're all laughing and we're all friends outside of work, you know, that's sort of the trifecta that you hope for as an actor.
And now you said that several of your castmates are groundlings. Are you a groundling as well?
You know, I did groundlings a little bit, but I actually wound up doing some improvisation years ago and realizing that I was geared more towards stand-up. So I did stand-up for about 4 or 5 years. But honestly, the time commitment there, you only have so much time as an actor.
Yeah.
For me, outside of the professional jobs that I'm doing, quote-unquote professional,
This professional.
I want to make my own stuff. You know, I think it's never been easier for us to be our own content creators, to brand our own style of comedy and humor. And so that's really what I've been up to for the last 4 or 5 years, is consistently producing and directing my own comedy content. And it's nice that it's finally sort of breaking through to the masses.
And I think it is, I agree, the best time that everyone is a creator. I mean, I'm creating my own stuff. I know all my friends are creating their own stuff and putting it online, because who knows, as for someone who may be starting out, there's no loss.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think back to high school. For me, I was running around with a mini DV camera, like trying to edit short films and whatnot together. It was a challenge. Yeah. And now we all have, you know, professional movie cameras in our pockets.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you're a young creator that's just moved to LA, or you're looking to sort of break into entertainment, the advice I always give is make stuff. It's never been easier to make your own stuff and to brand yourself the way you want. You know, and for me, my entry into this industry was through a lot of height-specific roles. I'm a shorter guy.
Really?
I've played my you know, fair amount of Christmas elves and leprechauns and jockeys.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny and it's great, but I didn't want to just do that.
Of course.
And so what producing my own content has done has allowed me to construct the kinds of roles that I want to play that maybe there weren't as many professional opportunities for. And, you know, I think when you first start making your own stuff, you operate under this idea of should. Well, I should make this because this person would like it and it would allow me to work with this person.
Yeah.
If you get rid of that word should and you just say, let me make what I want. And there's some beautiful clarity to that. It's all expensive to make your own stuff, so why not make what you want and brand yourself the way you want?
Totally.
So that's really what I've been trying to do for the last few years.
That's awesome. And I know for one thing that you also created was a short film first I want to talk about, because there's a long talk about back to the 90s. So the short film, what was it called?
Time Travel Romance?
Time Travel Romance. Okay, just to clarify, just so I have it right. So tell me how that went, because that seemed like a quick shoot, but the graphics were amazing.
Well, you know what's interesting is I did a lot of short form YouTube content for a long time. You know, I have a web series about really bad dates. I've got a bunch of little 3-4 minute short films that have done pretty well, you know, pretty viral. And I've started to kind of creep towards longer form content. So I did a short film called Time Travel Romance with Mindy Sterling from Austin Powers. Yeah. Mindy and I have done voiceover.
She's a groundling as well.
She is. She is. And we've done voiceover together for years. She was really sweet to get involved. But yeah, I made a short film about a guy that invents a time machine so he can travel back a few seconds every time he says stupid stuff to girls, so he can get better at dating. Obviously,
which is needed in real life.
Disastrous results ensue. But it's been really great. It's been you know, it's like a 12, 13-minute film. It's running the film festival circuit, doing well at festivals. And again, it's just sort of an evolution of my content and my producing and directing chops. And I love working on sort of narrative stuff like that, simultaneous to all these crazy music videos that I've been up to.
Yeah, and then real quick, staying in the whole Nickelodeon world, Henry Danger.
Yeah,
which is a real poppin' show right now.
It absolutely won the Kids' Choice Award a few months ago. Henry Danger's been great. I've been lucky enough to sort of be in Dan Schneider's universe for a long time. Dan, of course, did all that.
He's Nick God,
Kenan and Kel.
All that, everything.
And I originally met Dan and started working with him on Sam and Cat. Did an episode of that years ago before Ariana Grande was like the massive superstar that she is now. And then Henry Danger. I did the pilot. I've sort of played one of the main villains on the show. The Toddler. I'm an evil man baby, so it's a really subtle character. But they're in the 4th season now. What is so fun about every time I get to go and do that show is everybody there, the crew, the cast, we're all friends. Like when you work early on a show, particularly on the very first episode, you meet everybody at the onset of such an exciting project.
Totally.
And so every time you get to go back, it's like, you know, you're going back to hang out with your friends. There's not that sort of usual first day at school effect that you have on another show, you know, because I'm a perennial guest star on NCIS and Bones and House. Anytime you do a show
to name a few.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well, thanks, man. But anytime you do a show like that, it really, you're sort of figuring out how an individual set works, how the personalities work on set. And so it's a real luxury for a show like Henry Danger or a show that you're recurring on to show up and already know how things work and know the personalities, particularly, and again, to like those personalities and to want to work with them. So that's a blast. Kids sitcoms for me have really been fun to work on over the years because as a theater guy, I grew up in theater. It's the closest thing we have to theater on television.
I agree. That's how I describe it as well. I think it's not as much. I always say like acting. It's more slapstick, funny. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's over the top. It's goofy.
Yeah.
You're allowed to create really interesting, quirky characters.
Totally.
In a way that you wouldn't be able to do on like a single camera comedy.
Yeah.
So there's a real luxury there. I remember actually when I was sort of at the peak of doing a lot of stand-up, it's kind of a dark, depressive world. You're in a bar every night. There's a lot of people kind of complaining about their lives. And then during the day, I was doing a Nickelodeon show, this is years ago, called Bucket and Skinner's Epic Adventures. And, you know, all day I'm around, like, smiling preteens. And then I go to, like, this depressing, you know, bar at night. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to focus more on, like, the TV world. It's a little happier.
It is a little happier. I mean, I'm always at these comedy clubs as well. I have some people who I always go to their shows, and it is a different nature than working on a kid's set. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a different world. Yeah, you know, I'll probably get back into it at some point, but the television thing was definitely really the path that I wanted to go down.
And then was animation always your desire, or did it just happen to be?
I always say animation is the one thing we have as actors in this town that doesn't come with anxiety. You know, every other opportunity you get in this town, you have to remember the lines, and you got to go to a high pressure audition. It's all really stressful.
Yeah.
You got to look a certain way. Animation, you can show up looking however you want. You got the lines right in front of you. It's the cushiest job in the world. It's fantastic. And it's really the great equalizer to the rest of the stress that you deal with in Los Angeles. And
that's a good way of putting it, I think. I didn't even realize that that's such the difference of auditioning even.
But I think animation itself, you know, there's lots of kinds of voiceover. I was primarily doing a lot of commercial voiceover for a long time.
What kind of ad?
Yeah, tons of ads. I mean, I was the voice of the little scrubbing bubbles bubble for a long time. In the kitchen! And, you know, you get these little campaigns. I did a lot of the Honda spots over the years. So that was all fun, but animation has really been the goal, and that's just taken a decade of hustle to finally have some of it start to pay off.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing to hear, and I know I'm glad to hear how much fun you're having.
It's blast, yeah. It's
especially
total blast.
Opposed to stand-up. Now you're doing what you've always dreamed of doing now.
I mean, it's all great, right? You just want, as an actor, you want to spread your wings, you want to try different things, and you want to see what ultimately connects with you.
Totally. And now let's talk about back to the 90s. How many views are we at?
We are creeping towards 50 million.
Okay, that's a lot. Yeah. Because I watched it last night as well. I think I watched it twice, in all honesty. I watched it twice because everything is so relatable.
Yeah.
I was born in 91, but I still remember everything.
Oh, you're a youngin'.
I was a youngin'. I didn't get to live with the Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
But I knew about the Jinko jeans.
I will tell you, man, I own my own pair of Jinkos, and it looked like I was walking to school every day in an evening gown. Those things were real floppy. I mean,
those were
like
real floppy. Where'd you have to get that?
I mean, the thing that was so cool about doing this music video was we had to do a lot of preparation for it. I met with my production designer months in advance because we had to go to flea markets and pull, sort of crawl through Craigslist and eBay to try to find as much authentic wardrobe and merchandise from the 90s as we could to make the video as authentic as possible.
Because everything was, Furby was on point. Everything, I was like, I'm sure everyone tells you.
We tried to hide a Furby in almost every shot of the video. If you go back, there's little Easter eggs throughout.
I would love to, I want to go look at it and watch it again. I even add one more view, maybe get that 50 million.
There you go.
Is there anything else that we can look for?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of detail and preparation that went into this project. So
2 days of shooting.
Yeah, 2 days of shooting, but a year of preparing a song. You know, essentially, I'll give you a little context for it. Indie hip-hop artist and I, Jensen Reed and I, met at our voiceover agency. So this is where the voiceover kind of connects. I wanted to do, for a long time, a music video, like a thug rap about being a short guy. And I wanted to do this sort of braggadocious thing. So this was years ago. We worked on a music video called Little Dude Anthem. And it did well. It got like 1 million views, a little feather in our cap. But we wanted to follow it up with something that we could both really connect to. And nostalgia was the thing that resonated for us.
Yeah.
We both grew up in the 90s. We wanted to make an epic love letter to our childhoods. And it made sense to utilize the partnership that we had created with Little Dude Anthem. Again, he's a hip-hop artist. I'm a funny actor. To sort of use both of those worlds that we're in to come together to create this crazy project. So we knew it was going to do well, but we didn't expect, obviously, the sort of tornado of excitement that it's caused. So we worked on the track for about 6 months. We brought in Jared Lee to write the hook of the song. He writes for Jason Derulo. He wrote the New Kids on the Block sound track. And then I brought in my friend Garrett Clayton, who's the star of Hairspray Live. And so we kind of constructed things. We prepared the shoot for about a year, shot over 2 really crazy, grueling days in November, and then took another 6 months to animate, color correction, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And released it about 5 or 6 weeks ago at this point, and it's
That's a lot in a little bit of time.
Yes.
And I've seen all the press you've gotten about it, and I mean, who has been the coolest person you've met thus far from the 90s who's loved the video?
I mean, the coolest opportunity so far is probably the Backstreet Boys. So AJ McLean surprised us recently in a television interview and invited us up on stage with the Backstreet Boys.
That's
so
cool.
we're going this weekend up on stage with the Backstreet Boys at Planet Hollywood at their residency in Las Vegas. So it's a crazy opportunity. That's been fun. But just a lot of the 90s pop stars and their endorsements of this has really been just a crazy wild ride. Like we had Lori Loughlin tweet us out. I mean, I was a huge Full House fan back in the day, so for Aunt Becky to enjoy our video, that was cool. Lance Bass. So we've really had the support of a lot of the iconic boy bands, particularly since the chorus of the song is so iconically Backstreet Boys. And that's just been a really fun piece of the puzzle of this. But this thing has really had incredible legs, and it's setting up some truly phenomenal opportunities for us, which is incredibly exciting.
What were some of the outcomes that you kind of expected? Because you did put in, at the end of the video, it says you put in your life savings into it.
No, I mean, we were joking around.
Oh, I was like, because the graphics were so good in each scene that it made sense.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it was so perfect.
I think it costs money to make great stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'm never going to be a YouTuber that's going to put out a video a day and is going to vlog. Like, that's not really my model. My MO has always been, let me make a couple things a year that are going to blow people's minds. That, for me, is the kind of brand of comedy and content that I want to make. It's less content, but the content I do make is crazy high production value. And so, ultimately, what Jensen and I are doing as a result of Back to the 90s is we're pitching ourselves as the new Lonely Island. Comedy meets hip-hop. We think that there's a lot of sketch comedy online sort of set to music. We want to do something different. We want to do crazy awesome music videos that have tracks that really belong on the radio, and they just happen to be about silly things. And there's a certain level of legitimacy that we've been able to establish back to the 90s, particularly because we charted at number 11 on the Billboard digital charts the first week the song came out. So there's a legitimacy to the music component of this that really helps construct that sort of Lonely Island model for us moving forward. So ultimately, we'd like to do a bunch of crazy new music videos. We'd like to partner with some brands and some other platforms to hopefully get that monetized and start to bring in a revenue stream from it now that we've got 50 million eyes on us. And so that's the exciting component in terms of us as a duo. And in terms of me as an individual, I've written a couple of television shows that I'm trying to sell. And I've started to think more and more like a showrunner as these opportunities kind of start to open up.
And that's where you really want to be, a showrunner.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to sell my own show and act in it. I've written a couple of concepts that I'm really excited about that we're pitching around town right now, and I truly think that the momentum from back to the 90s we can leverage into some narrative opportunities as well. So it's all really exciting. It's been a really humbling experience. Jensen and I were saying, I think in the first 5 or 6 days of Back to the 90s being released, I probably heard from almost everybody I've ever met in my life.
Really?
And that's a really humbling experience to have that kind of overwhelming support for a project. And, you know, we had this wonderful feature in Billboard, and Jensen had this great quote. He said, "This is your classic 15-year overnight success story." It's not a flash in the pan. It's not an overnight success story. It's the result of a lot of people working their butts off for a really long time, where something has finally kind of broke through to the masses. And now we're ready to capitalize on that.
That's very good. And I know, because I have some friends who are social media influencers, and it's always funny when companies hire them assuming that they can just make a viral video in a day. And like, no, it takes a lot of time and preparation for a video to get eyes.
Sure. Well, and look, there's some stuff that people just film on their iPhones and goes viral. For me, it's really not about the amount of views or who's looking at it. It's like, I want to stay true to who I am as a comedic actor and a director and a content creator. I just want to make stuff that I want to make, and hopefully people are going to dig it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if that puts me in a position to make even cooler stuff, then I'm on the right track. So again, I just think in terms of making your own stuff, it's about staying true to who you want to be as an artist, and it costs a little bit of money to do it. But for me, again, the model is, let me do fewer projects, but those projects are going to be crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like there's actually several positions at BuzzFeed who their main job is a viral video a month.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's you prep the whole month and then 2-day shoot, and then it better be viral else.
I mean, and BuzzFeed has the luxury, obviously, of having this built-in global fan base. Where it's tougher for independent content creators is, you really gotta just hope something finds its legs.
Yeah.
What is so exciting about Back to the 90s now is it has sort of started to blow up our fan base, so that the next video we make, we truly do think we could get tens of millions of views on the next one. And then when you start putting the pieces together and consistently getting those kinds of views on videos, then you've really put yourself in a great position to succeed in a lot of different avenues.
Very established after you can confirm that, especially, I mean, once you get sponsored per music video.
Sure.
Which I'm sure is
so
open.
Yeah, I mean, like we're planning on doing Back to the 80s. We want to do a second Back to the 90s. We think we can get some really cool celebrity cameos now that we're working on.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, I guess, for the first one, who would you have wished that, even if you could have one?
Well, oh man, I mean, like we reached out to almost every iconic band from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like Hanson turned us down.
Wow, okay.
We reached out to a lot of people, and a lot of people were really gracious. Like Fred Savage wasn't able to make it work, but he was interested in it. So I just think that now that we've got a little bit of legitimacy and some interest, clearly from 50 million people, it's going to be a little easier for us to construct the relationships with some cameos for our upcoming stuff. And we're excited about that. I think it's just going to allow us to make bigger, badder, cooler productions. I mean, it's hard to top being in an airplane hangar with a 60-foot jib and a bunch of dancers from So You Think
I was
You Can
watching
Dance,
it like, how did they get this in the production? Like a huge hangar?
Yeah, man, I probably made about 200 phone calls to find a hangar that was not going to charge us $100,000.
I'm sure.
Again, it's just a testament to all of our producers on the project and hard work. It would be really easy to write that kind of stuff out. The anecdote I always give is I did a web series like right after I graduated college, and we made like an hour of content, 12 episodes, and there's this little teeny tiny piece that required me to ride a pony. And the easiest thing as a producer is to say, we should cut the pony thing. That's like, there's no point in having that in. Let's do this cheaper. But I was hell-bent on riding this pony. And so we, for one day of production, went to a horse ranch in Orange County, and we shot me riding this tiny little white pony. And wouldn't you believe it, it's the funniest bit of the entire series.
So it was worth it.
Totally worth it. But I think that's a fun anecdote to sort of say, write something great and then try to figure out a way to make it great.
Yeah.
There's always a way to produce something independently and relatively inexpensive that, that's going to blow people's minds.
I agree completely. And now, what was probably the hardest thing to obtain in the music video, though? Because you had a lot of items.
Sure.
That were 90s.
I mean, obviously the location of the hangar was incredibly difficult, but there were some weird things that were difficult. For example, we have this scene where we talk about AOL and chat rooms, and we needed to find sort of an iconically 90s computer. So that took a little bit of hustle to try to find something that kind of could work for that time period. And again, that was going to be inexpensive. And, we just wrote in a lot of really specific things, too, that just took some research, like an easy bake oven. And, I got a lot of flack for not including Pogs.
Oh, my God. I remember playing with Pogs.
I missed the Pogs reference, so we'll have to include that in the next one. But it was a real trip down memory lane for us on set to be around all of this. I mean, it really felt like we were in the 90s when we shot this thing. And, for a bunch of wistful, nostalgic 30-year-olds, it was like, this is great. Like, this is, it truly was a love letter to our childhoods. And we're just so honored that it's resonated with our generation.
Yeah. And now it was good enough to create back to the 80s, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start production on a bunch of new music video concepts, and again, we just think that this Lonely Island stream of thought for us is the right way to pitch ourselves, and it's just opened up a whole world of opportunity and some really exciting relationships moving forward, where I can't wait to see the stuff that we're making, in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because just when 50 million people see something, it's that is like so mega viral, it has to lead somewhere.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't lead somewhere after 50 million. That's why I'm saying, like, I hope that it gets sponsored the next video so you can just go even crazier and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal.
Charmin. I don't even know what.
Well, the cool thing about these decade videos is there's so many different suppliers and merchandise companies where it would be easy to go to any number of companies and say, like, hey, well, let's do this in an organic way so it doesn't feel like an ad, but really find a way to sort of fund our content. So that's kind of the meetings and whatnot that we're having right now.
So what are other projects that we can look forward to right now?
Well, certainly our upcoming music videos, we've got one about sports, we've got one about awkward dates, we've got a lot of music videos on our slate for the upcoming year. And in terms of some of my projects that I'm producing, I don't want to talk about the TV show concepts, but suffice it to say, I will probably be shooting a pilot or two in the next year for some of these concepts that we mentioned earlier. And then, again, I'm just sort of knee-deep in Nickelodeon stuff right now, so it's been fun to...
Dan Warp.
and Dan Warp, yeah. So it's, exciting to see where those opportunities go, and then, we'll see what...
And you mentioned briefly, you can touch on it as much as you want, but kind of like you're shadowing as a director?
Yeah. I think for me, I was reticent for a long time to direct things that I was acting in. I thought that might come off the wrong way, but when you have a production team around you that you really trust, I think it can actually be a really strong workflow if you really know what you want as a director. And so I've actually been directing a lot of these projects that I've been acting in, and I'm just really proud about having constructed a production team that I can trust that allows that to kind of work. So that's sort of the directing I'm doing for my own projects. And then for outside of that, I have been shadowing at Nickelodeon as a director, because again, the sitcom world is totally different from directing like single camera comedy. And so that's been a really exciting thing to pursue and a fun road to go down, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
One that isn't one of your ideas, but what would an ideal live action on Nickelodeon be? Doesn't have to be one of your ideas.
You mean a live action show that I would make?
Not an animation, that you would create. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, it's fun acting on Nickelodeon shows, but I truly want to construct projects that are a little more for adults. I want to start making stuff that my friends can watch
on Nickelodeon.
Not necessarily on Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Sure, I mean, I'll open to anything. I would love to start pitching around some animated ideas, to be honest with you. But in terms of single camera live action stuff that I want to make, I really would like to pursue opportunities at like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon. Those are the kind of outlets that I'm really interested in collaborations with, because I'd like to branch out to adults.
Look, I believe that. And the funny thing is, touching from the 90s, back to the 90s, and Nickelodeon, I've always felt like we've kind of, phased out of the Boy Meets World, where back in the 90s and early 2000s, we had more dramatic shows on these kids' channels.
Yes, yeah,
Very
absolutely.
life, like real life stuff.
Things were a little slower paced, right? Things are, I think, a lot of children's content now is really, really rapid paced and sort of high strung and hopped up on sugar, because we're in this sort of rapid fire society. That was actually one of the motivating factors for making Back to the 90s, to sort of harken back to simpler times where in order to have fun, you didn't have an iPhone, you had to go out on your front lawn and play with your friends. And I think we can all do with a little less being on the phone these days.
I agree.
So I don't know, simpler times.
Yeah, that's why it was just funny for me to think about, because I feel like it's because of like YouTube and all these online streaming services that we feel like these kids shows now need to be so quick. Because if you look at editing on YouTube videos, it's all very choppy.
Yeah.
So you're never bored.
I think the thing that's been so exciting about Bunsen Is a Beast, working on that show at Nickelodeon, is that there is a 90s sensibility to our show. I think it is a little less frenetic, and there's a little more sort of pacing to the comedy, and there's some sort of pathos to the characters that we all really enjoy because we grew up watching that stuff. There's nothing wrong with the fast-paced stuff, but I definitely connect and resonate more with something that's a little slower.
Yeah, that's just why, because I remember all these dramatic shows on Disney and Nickelodeon.
Absolutely.
And now it's just popping. It's everywhere. All over faces. Somebody drops something heavy on their foot and it's like, wow! All the time. So where can we find you?
Yeah, so the Back to the 90s, certainly I encourage all your viewers to watch that. That can be found on my Facebook page at Ben Giroux Actor, BenGiroux Actor. And then a lot of my other comedy is on my YouTube channel at Ben Giroux TV. And then I post sort of daily updates and everything what I'm up to on my Instagram at Ben Giroux.
Ben Giroux, you heard it. Thank you so much for being in here.
Thanks so much for having me,
your time. Look out for Bunsen Is Beast continuing to roll out with great improv. And they all work together, voice acting in the same room, which I think is amazing. I think it's really cool that they put the animation to you. Yeah, but thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
I'm Nick Mardi. You can find me ever at Nick Mardi 13. Thank you guys so much. Catch you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.